Order on our budget, and anyone who would like to address us, council on the budget, please do so. Just come to the podium and give us your name and address for the record. And seeing none, we will close the public hearing and we'll call the meeting to order. And I will recognize Councilwoman Kathy Condom to lead us in the invocation and or pledge allegiance in the invocation.
Okay. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight, before we start our prayer, I'd like, as always, to ask our Father in heaven for wisdom, judgment, and guidance in all things relating to Irmo, but also for all of our military.
Amen.
For my son-in-law in the Middle East.
Amen.
And for Barry's son, who's on the USS Nimitz out of
Amen.
San Diego. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed
Be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation. Deliver us from evil. Thine is the kingdom, power, and the glory forever. Amen.
His son sailed out yesterday.
Next item is the reading of the minutes for May 16th. Is there a motion for approval as written?
Make a motion.
Any changes or anything?
No.
Any discussion? All in favor then of the minutes to be approved as written, do so with show of hands. And next is the administrative briefing. Mr. Brown, anything you'd like to add?
Yes, sir. I passed out copies of the proposed road improvement list that would go out to 10 different legislators. Just review it, please. If you have any questions, let me know. We'll make changes and update it, send out the letters in the next month or so. That's all I have.
Any questions of Mr. Brown on anything on the briefing? Seeing none, next is our code enforcement update. And yeah. Good.
Wonderful.
How are you? Good, thank you. So, pretty busy last month, and just looking at the numbers, about 230-some cases were investigated. Some of those are still being investigated, like some of the grass. A lot of it got cleared out, and that's pretty routine when we abate the residents. And then we have some of the other issues that you see on the screen there. Vehicles being one. 14 of those cases were investigated. One, we did actually write one ticket for that, which is still pending in court. And we removed almost 100 signs for the entire month from the right-of-ways. Of the 7 zoning issues, 3 of them were permits required, and those can be anything from zoning permits to needing a container permit for one of the pods that you see. One of them was for front yard parking. We determined that that was a rental standard violation. Another one was for panhandling at the Walmart, which we get a lot of complaints about. Usually by the time we can get there, they're gone, but we were able to make contact with one of the panhandlers. And then there was one for an accessory building that was at New Friars Gate in front of a residence. There was some sort of makeshift carport type deal, and that was removed within the grace period. The new Circle K on Broad River, they had several banners out. You can only have one unless the town administrator approves more than that.
What do we do?
We've got a subcontractor that goes out and mows those.
And then we put a lien on the property?
Adjust the lead, because most of them already have one.
All right.
For instance, the one at North Royal and Flagsberry, 201 North Royal Tower, it's right across from the car wash and Dr. Tom Kelly's office.
Yes.
It was pretty high. The owner of that, according to the county database, lives there. Well, we know nobody lives there. And then our police research indicated that there just was no such person, or we couldn't find such person in any area. So, I mean, we're at a standstill when it comes to that. And on that main road, my phone probably rang 3 times a day just because of that one house. So that's when I come and beg and plead, and then town administrator and public works helped out with that. So that was very appreciative. And then the other side of the token is the community services that we do. Victims contacted, nothing out of the ordinary for that. We have been a lot more involved with community events. Chief Perry is very community oriented. We've, as you've seen, we've set up the tent at several different events, and everybody's been very receptive to that. We've helped with Buckle Buddies, car seat inspections, and the Red, White, and Blues event, and we're also kicking off this summer, called a Summer Adventure Squad, where we are getting involved with some of the youth in the community and participating with them and going to outdoor activities and that kind of thing. So that's more to come. Just kind of stay tuned for that. She wants to wait and put anything out on that. He might be mad at me for saying anything about it. So, but that's all I got unless you have questions.
Thank you, Bobby.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Baby seats are hard to get in a car.
Yeah,
I think that was a valuable thing.
I've got 2 in there. I still don't get them in quite right. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next is amendments to the agenda. Any amendments to the agenda? Seeing none. Next is consideration of communication, and I think we have an introduction of our new police officer, and I will let Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. I'd like to introduce Claire Morano. She's got over 25 years of law enforcement experience, and she is very fortunate to be here with us tonight. I'm just kidding. We're actually very fortunate to have her. She came from the Charleston area, and I was highly motivated into getting her on with us, and she's been very receptive, and she's doing great right now. She's going through her FTO process right now. She's actually training our FTO, which is fantastic. But all kidding aside, she's a great member. I think she'll be a great member to the department. She brings a lot of assets that we need here, and it's just exciting to have her on board. I'm really, really happy to introduce her to you all and to the town.
Claire, welcome.
Welcome, thank you.
This might be a downgrade for you coming from Charleston, you know. Well, good. Not that busy with the, red lights and speeding through town, because he runs such a tight ship. Thank you. Thank you.
Claire.
And, next we have the 2017 Okra Strut Scholarship recipients, and I will let Larry kind of lead us on that. And
Council members, thank you very much. Out of the proceeds of the Okra Strut, when it goes well, and it did in the last year, we're happy to try to put things back in the community, and that's been our history. And this year, we're presenting scholarships to a student at Dutch Fork High School and one at Irmo High School, and they're both here to shake y'all's hand and have a photo taken as we present them. But and just as good, quality here, we got one of the guys going maroon and garnet, and we got one of the guys going orange here. So Michael Templeton is here. Diavante Johnson is with us. I'll let you gentlemen come on up.
and we'll come down here, I guess. All right. Go. Dr. Johnson, okay.
So
Cool.
I'll let you hold that up front.
Get a little closer. There you go.
Need us to come in?
I get quite a bit just not good.
Congratulations. You were going to Clemson? Okay.
You should feel the tiger. That's what you should feel.
Congratulations.
Oh, you look here.
Son's an Auburn tiger.
Do you want a shot? Oh, you're a tiger fan? His parents up here. Do you want to do that outside? Can they have his parents up here with them?
Yeah.
Right about that. John Heisman brought them.
Congratulations.
Come on up here, Mom, Dad.
And you going to the medal?
Wish you would. I wish you would.
No, I haven't. Went through the roof. Now, who's the firefly?
Hands are occupied.
You're the firefly.
Oh, cool, cool.
Thank you, sir.
Should be thankful.
Come on over here. Hey, congratulations.
Don't get defeated.
Get in back here or something.
Well, that's okay.
Did you go? You went to Irmo? Okay, my daughter graduated. Is that it? You got it?
Must be on duty. She left, huh?
You got it? All right. Yeah, it don't matter to me. I like taking pictures. Congratulations.
Well, of the four recipients, three are going into medicine.
Oh, wow.
Two girls and each young man.
Wow.
And next, we will have Larry give us an update on the orchestra. And I know at the last meeting, we had someone speak too about the thing. But first, I want you to just kind of give us an update on the orchestra, where it stands, what's going on. And then we'll go into an executive session, so any of the stuff that he needs to discuss that might be a personal nature, a personnel matter, we can go in there to cover that. So, but go ahead and give us kind of an update.
And thank you again, council members. Our big focus this year is the expansion into the second night. And so that's a great deal of our efforts. That's moving along. Of course, our hope is that that second night will help impact some of the accommodations money and hospitality money in the area of people staying over a couple of, for nights of the festival. So part of that work then has been to review and modify all the vendor applications, people options to be one night, food vendors 1 day or 2 days, the exhibitors on Saturday, whether they want to get out in a window earlier or stay through the later evenings, all that's modified applications, and they're up and running. All of our headline artists are under contract for the 2-night festival. I did want to mention, of course, this is the first year. I like to mention it every time. We're not budgeting as much for profit this year because we are expending. If it's successful, we'll start be able to realize some more income from that going forward if it's successful in our first night. Just like to think that remind you of that every time that comes up. So, PR releases are scheduled for later this month when we'll start announcing the headliners for the events. And most activity right now is the sponsorship offering. That mailing went out about 10 days ago. This is the time of the orchestra calendar where everything goes slowly and you have to keep telling yourself it's okay, it always goes slowly this time of year. But even at this very beginning, there's a new sponsor that's already signed in, and that's good news, one that we didn't have last year. We do have a new sponsor arrangement that we'll be considering at our next meeting, which is a week from tonight. And then also very important is that the naming sponsor, Lexington Medical Center, has recommitted actually for a 3-year. So that's real good for the stability and forward of the program. Our new website is up and running. It's moved successfully. The email addresses seem to be operating accurately. Everything seems to be moving along well in that regard too. So with that, I thank you very much for your support. Any questions that you have, I'd be happy to.
And who are the bands? Because I forgot. The Friday night bands and the Saturday bands, who are they?
Saturday,
Or Friday and Saturday, or?
Friday and Saturday. Friday, well, again, our big press releases are coming up in a couple
Oh,
of weeks.
so you don't
But
wanna say
guys have
it?
already- You guys have already actually voted on it.
Well, if you don't want to say it, that's fine too. You can tell us later. You can whisper it in our ear.
We'll do the press releases. You can go back. You guys actually voted on all the contracts. So just sort of know.
My daughter actually is applying to be a vendor, and I think, but you probably don't know it's my daughter since she has a different name. And she was nothing but complimented.
Oh, excellent.
She said everything went smoothly. She got all the information she needed. She's going to be a vendor, and I think that's wonderful.
Love it when a plan comes together.
Mm.
Councilwoman, thank you.
Huh? Online, and she talked to somebody. I'm not sure who she talked to, but she did it online finally, so, yeah.
Any more questions?
Okay.
And I will make a motion that we go in executive session so he can address some of the stuff that was brought up before, to discuss that contract and why and when and all that good stuff, and also the personnel matters that go with it. Is there a
This,
second?
Larry, this is okerstrut.com. That's the new website.
Okerstrut.com.
Okay.
What is the email address? It is, the one we had published is 2017 at theokerstrut.com.
So all in favor of going to executive session, do so with show of hands. All opposed? Oh.
Okay.
And we'll be right back up. Oh. Make sure we turn off our tube trick. Back. And next item on the agenda is presentation by citizens for items that are on the agenda. All we ask is you give us your name and address for the record and which agenda item you'd like to address. Anyone? Seeing none? Oh.
I'm with that person. I want to address the zone violation.
Now, which thing on the agenda?
I don't know what the agenda is.
Well, it'll have to be on the agenda for this place. Now, at the end of the meeting, we have another place where you can address council on anything, whether it's on the agenda or not. But this one, it has to be on the agenda here. Oh, okay.
Okay.
The parking?
Yeah,
Okay, that'll be fine, yeah. And what was that name again?
but now,
And the address?
1409 Brookview Road.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
I got a question about it because I've been, seem like in one of the ones at the offices here been kind of like one say one thing and the other one come and do another thing. And I get charged, been charged once, been charged twice. And from the first time to the second time, it was two different occasions. One said, the first time, it was a car in my yard that didn't belong to me, that broke down, and it didn't have a tag on it, so I got fined for that, and I couldn't make it to court because my son was in the hospital. And, so I paid that. And this last time, they come out there, and they was told, and from the understanding that I had, that everything that could be seen from the street or what you got parked in your driveway, couldn't have a one in the driveway that had that covered up, wasn't in shape. And they told me, say, if I was working on my vehicles, that as long as I parked them in the backyard, it was okay if you couldn't see them from the road. And that's what I did. And I had several occasions where, but twice, back in 2003, where me and my wife came home and seen this light, well, she saw the light in the backyard, and it kind of startled her. And it was one of the Irmo police back there looking at one of my cars, I guess. But in the time, in the backyard, yeah. And by the time I got to the door, I seen the car going down the street. And this last time, which it was 16 when it came out, they didn't look in what was in the front yard. The officers went come straight within the backyard and look at the cars that I'm working on. Some of them I'm going to restore, and got tags on them. But yet still, I was fine.
What was the fine? What was the fine?
A parked vehicle
On the grass?
in the backyard. Yeah.
Well, right now, what we got on the agenda is changing our parking of car ordinance. As far as any tickets, we can't really address that.
I'm talking about the idea of, I felt like my backyard that's private property, my backyard. For them just to walk back in the backyard, don't even look at what's in the front. My understanding is what you can see from the road. And then not what, one tell me to park it in the back, where you can't see it from the road. But yet still, they just come straight in the backyard. They don't, and everything in the front yard is running, but the one I'm working on is in the backyard.
And I'm not sure what our ordinance says. I'd have to pull it up and read it. But I think the gist of it is that the cars have to be licensed. Is that correct? And if they are not licensed, they have to be hidden from public view, either with a car cover or in the backyard, kind of behind a, I don't say privacy fence, but if they were upside the house too, then you couldn't see them from the road, then that would be, and it might say public view. I'm not real sure, but
From the street.
from the public street, okay. So it wouldn't matter if it's somebody else's backyard or not. It would just be hidden from view from the public street.
Do you rent your house or do you own it?
I've been there for like 16 years.
Okay, so it's not a matter of being a rental property problem. Stick around. We're going to debate this in a little bit.
Yeah. And as far as the other stuff, I mean, that's between, I won't say you, an attorney, and a police officer. But as far as them coming on your property and all that other stuff, we can't really address that here because we're only going to be talking about the ordinance itself.
Well, he's not saying he don't want them coming on his property. He's saying that he's got a car in his backyard that he's working on or had stored, and these people are giving him tickets for
Right.
violation of basically what this ordinance is going to address. So, I mean, I understand what he's saying. I mean,
Yeah, but that would be something that the court would have to talk about, not us.
well, it's our ordinance that we're enforcing. I mean, just like I said, stick around and listen to the debate, and then after the meeting, you can come and talk to us again about it.
And let's see. Anyone else? Seeing none. Next is unfinished business, second reading of ordinance 1717, which is our budget in the amount of $5,283,337. Is there a motion for second reading?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion? And I think we said it last time, this is did you say 88,000 less, roughly, than last year? 80,000 less than last year? And it does include the step increases and the cost of living, and also the increases for our police department. And 0 millage, and business license is all the same as it was before as well. So not a whole lot of changes, really, other than those things.
Right.
Did it cover the increase of time?
We've got 10% stuck in there, which should cover our employer costs.
And hopefully we'll get
Want to be sure.
reimbursed half of that from the state for the first year.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the increase for the next 5 years.
What was our surplus last year? Approximately.
Probably between 120 and 150,000.
Okay.
We won't know until the audit
I understand.
in September.
So we need discussion on the budget. And we just had a public hearing on it too, so. All in favor then of second reading of ordinance 1717, do so with show of hands. Next is first reading of, and there's 2 of them in your thing, so I'm guessing what that means is the 1718, the short one, was what we deferred.
Correct.
So we will have to make a motion for that and then amend it to the second page if we so choose.
Which is 17, 18?
Well, they're both 1718,
Okay.
but
We have one from the last meeting that was deferred, and then the one that Councilman Wade made corrections to as a
Yeah.
second paragraph. That's the new one
Okay.
that we need to amend.
That's the only one on the iPad, right? Okay.
Oh, okay, so I got just 2 copies in, okay. But the one we're making a motion on now is the old version that was put on there last time.
Not this one?
Yeah, because we'll have to amend it to that one.
Oh.
Because we had, this is the one we deferred, so this is the one we gotta bring back. So is there a motion for 1718
I so moved.
and a second?
A second.
And any discussion, or you want to go ahead and amend it to the second thing?
No?
You don't want to amend it? You want to leave it?
I want to amend it.
Okay.
He wants to amend it. I'm gonna let
So,
him do it.
okay. So there's a motion to amend by Julius.
And the amendment simply gives citizens until January 2nd, 2018 to become familiar with the change. And there will be no abatements until then.
Well, they wouldn't still go out and give abatements, or give a warning, or whatever you call it, or give a
Give
notice or
warning,
something
yes,
to people?
Yeah. It's a grace period.
Yeah. But that way they can go ahead and notify people and let them know they need to be thinking this is, coming up, or whatever you call it. So is there a second?
I second.
And any discussion? I'll let you go ahead, and then Mark, if you
Well, I
want to.
think the gentleman who spoke to us brought up a good example. You asked him, are you on rental property or you own your property? That's the confusion about a lot of our ordinances. We got a chunk that applies solely to rental properties. And previous chief didn't even know that we had a printout in the town hall that he could have gotten to that gave you the list of all the rental properties in the town of Irmo. Prior to that, he would call the town hall, find out if this was a rental property, and he'd call back to his deputy and tell him that, yep, that's a rental house, or no, that's not a rental house. So there was a lot of confusion, and still is a lot of confusion. And a lot of towns have made a uniform policy of rental houses and homeowner occupied houses will be judged the same. And I think that's the way it ought to be. I mean, just because I don't live in my house anymore, why should I be penalized because I'm renting it to somebody and they aren't taking care of my house? I'm going to kick them out. But a person who is in their own home and decides, well, I don't care if the shutters fall off or the garage door falls down, or I don't cut my grass but once a month or every 6 months or whatever. Neighbors don't like that, and there's nothing that you can do because we have it in our ordinance that homeowners are exempt, so to speak, but homeowners that rent their properties are not exempt. And this is just one thing that is in there. Is this a homeowner occupied property or is it a rental property? You can't park on the grass. You can park on the grass. You can't park on the grass. And it doesn't look good. And after it rains and the lawn has disappeared, it washes into the streets. And if you live next door to one, good luck selling your house.
You want to go?
I mean, I'm in agreement. I noticed today when I was coming home that there was a home that clearly had enough parking in their driveway for 6 cars, yet I saw 2 cars in the driveway and 2 cars on the lawn. And I think it's just for convenience. And I think, Councilman Walker, you had mentioned that when your kids were here, you had to make adjustments to make sure, you know, I'm going out first, so my car will be last in there.
We didn't have that many cars in my house.
You had mentioned that at one time, though. That, yeah.
Okay.
So that's the way I was raised in a city that we didn't have a lot of on-street parking. You had to find a place to put your car. In some cases, certainly during a snowstorm, you had to find a public area to put your car in. You put one car in that public area, you put another car in your driveway or your garage. It's what we had to do. I know. It's what you had to do in that city. So,
When we had snow, we just put our car up and never moved.
yeah, that's right. That's right.
We
So
wait till 10 o'clock for it to thaw out.
Yeah, I'm in favor of this change.
Any more discussion?
The problem that I see with this is not the intent. Y'all are trying to, beautify the town, and I understand that. It's clear. But you're causing a financial burden on the residents to be conforming to this ordinance. You're telling them they have to add crush and run or whatever your approved paving surfaces, I guess you put it in there, as your approved paving surfaces that you have. And to me, that's saying, okay, if you have to park, if you have the need to park your car on your front lawn, as long as you want to put down asphalt or crush and run or concrete or whatever the approved parking surfaces are, it's okay. Now you've caused somebody to have to spend money to do it, and you haven't fixed the problem. Now they're going to park the car on a concrete driveway they put in just to be conforming to this ordinance. It's still parking in front of the house. What this gentleman pointed out to us a few minutes ago, he said, look, I got the car in the back of my house, and I'm still getting tickets and getting questions about whether or not it's legal or whatever. It's a matter of invading the privacy and of the homeowners, the people that actually vote and pay taxes and do the things that they need to do to be a member of the Irmo community. Now, I'm not saying that the people that rent houses, don't contribute to the taxes or don't contribute to the enjoyment of Irmo, but I am saying that it makes a difference when somebody that's owning the property wants to pull a car on the side of the house or on the front of the house or wherever for whatever reason they want. It's their house. It's their property. I know, I think what you're trying to do is to make Irmo the greatest HOA in the world, and that's fine. But you can't force people to spend money to, conform to this ordinance. You can't force people to say, well, if you don't spend money for asphalt and concrete or crush and run or gravel, you're going to get $1,000 ticket. You can't afford that, you know, so.
Okay, what about if you park, I'm not trying to change, I'm just
Well-
trying to find a mediation here. If you park on the far side of the driveway,
Well, you can, according to this.
I know, but you gotta put stuff down.
Gotta put crush and run.
That's the same ordinance that I'm trying to push through.
Yeah, I'm trying to get people,
I rented my house out after I moved to Irmo. I had two little old ladies that, and I'm older than they are now, but these two little old ladies that rented my house when I first moved to Irmo, one still worked, one was retired. Whoever got home last had to, if they were not the one going to work, they had to juggle the car, because they wouldn't park in the garage, because the house was built in '39, so cars of today didn't fit in those
Yeah.
garages.
yeah,
And they got a ticket because one of them parked adjacent to the other car on the lawn. And they called me up, and I went down to police headquarters to see what was going on, and they said, well, there's an ordinance in the city of Columbia. You can't park unless you're parked in a designated parking area. And I said, what makes a designated parking area? He said, well, go by about 4 or 6 4x4s, come off the side of the driveway with 2 of them and down with 4 of them, and fill it full of pine straw.
Yeah,
That's a designated parking area.
or rocks. You can buy rocks at Lowe's to do.
yeah.
So that was a $1,000 fine if it weren't done.
So are you suggesting that somebody gets 2x4s and some pine straw, 4x4s and some pine straw, and put it in front of their houses, and
Not in
they
front.
can?
We
To the
have
side of the
ordinances
driveway.
that keep you from parking in front,
You park to the
except in homeowners.
Right, I'm saying, so a homeowner can do that? Buy some 4x4 and put some straw down?
If it's a suitable driveway, and a driveway is for egress, primarily from the street into a garage, but not every house now has a garage.
Would that be better? I'm talking about to the right, to the far side.
I understand what you're saying. I mean, that's, again,
It's-
you can do it, but the problem is, what this ordinance says, you have to spend money to put down concrete or asphalt or crush and run, and that's an expense that you're forcing. Well, he just said pine straw and 4x4s, so,
Well, I believe it
I mean,
says
that's
concrete,
fine.
asphalt, crush and run, gravel, et cetera. And
Well, et cetera means
by
what?
definition in our code book, it gives many different things as far as driveway definitions.
Okay.
Okay, so they're gonna, all right, so the et cetera, then will include the dead grass and the exposed dirt that you see now? That's
I don't think
acceptable?
that's an approved,
That's not approved.
yeah.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. What is et cetera then? That's what I'm saying. Put down pine straw. That's what is that gonna be acceptable
But
to
it's
you?
got to be a designated driveway.
They're gonna designate it with the 4x4 posts.
4 posts, yes.
Put the 4x4 posts down, throw some pine straw on top, and now you satisfy the ordinance.
Yes.
So what have you accomplished? Not a thing. There's still parking in front of the house.
Walker, the pine straw will stop the driveway or the yard from washing into the street. You don't have that problem because you live in an HOA protected area, and it's also protected by Harbors and Forest regulations.
Yeah, I got a driveway that's big enough for my cars.
I do too.
Okay, so I mean,
I got a double garage, and I park my car in my garage. But we've got a lot of people that put their stuff, as George Carlin used to say, in the garage. And everybody has more stuff. Every time they move, you bring more stuff, and you put more stuff in the garage, and you have no place for your car.
yeah, that stuff is important stuff, man. That's
Some
why it's in
stuff
my
is
garage.
important, But not all stuff is. But it's just an eyesore.
Listen, I agree with you. It is an eyesore. I don't have a problem with that. What I have a problem with is you telling somebody they got to spend theoretically $1,000
Not
to
telling
put
them
in.
they've got to spend any money.
Well, this ordinance is telling them that.
Uh,
Or okay,
They
either
can get a
either
ticket.
do that or get $1,000 fine.
Well, I could have gotten $1,000 fine, but I got pea gravel and put it down.
Yep.
rather than pine straw.
Yep. Look, I think in Rhode Island, when I got my license, you did
We're
not.
back to Rhode Island now. We're in South Carolina now.
I mean,
Understood. My point is, when I first got my license, you did not have to have insurance. However, my father said,
It was 18 what?
stop it now. My father said, you're not driving unless you have insurance. There's a cost to owning a car. And I think this is part of the cost of owning a car. That's the way I see it.
Maybe we ought to give it first reading and let Mr. Al put it,
well,
put it in the paper, see what.
I want to make sure I understand because I'm hearing stuff that I don't read. So we have nothing in here about a designated area. So we have no way of enforcing somebody to put timbers down or whatever.
An improved parking surface.
Well, we got a law that says you cannot burn stuff unless it's in an approved burn. And guess what?
Oh, yeah.
Anything that's in somebody's backyard can be approved by them. And they can burn because they approved it.
But that
This-
designated,
This doesn't say who's got to approve it. I could approve it if it's in my yard and say it's approved. I approved it. I'm the homeowner and I approved it. There's really not much argument to say that Bob or somebody or a town administrator.
Who has to approve or anything?
And when it says concrete, asphalt, crush and run, gravel, et cetera, I think we open the door up to pine, straw, and et cetera.
Okay.
It's going to be very hard.
That's what the et cetera part.
Yeah, I think you do. You'd have to get rid of that et cetera.
except on the, we had designated approved parking surface.
Well, and I was.
Parking service is in our definitions in our big.
I'll let y'all speak. I want to speak. I'm not going to, but I just want to finish. You got here concrete, asphalt, crush and run. Now, I don't know if crush and run in the front yard is going to look any better than dirt. Now, if somebody wants to do concrete and they, or whatever, that's a different story. But now on the side yard, if somebody wants to put crush and run or whatever that crumbled asphalt guy was telling us about the other day, he's got it to the outside of his driveway, and he dumped a bunch of that ground up asphalt that you get wherever you get, and he parks on that, and that's to the outside of his driveway. Now he parks on the other side of his yard too, because he has more vehicles than whatever, and the other side of the driveway, which is not in front of his house, but to the outside of the home towards the next yard, he just parks in the yard. So it's nothing, it's just dirt.
How many cars does he park?
He's got 3 trucks and his wife's got a vehicle. He's retired and he must enjoy.
So he's got 4 vehicles.
And I think 2 boats. We discussed that too. But most of the boats are in his backyard.
Most of the boat,
Or his boats are in his backyard. He's got a big boat and a little boat. He likes to fish. But, I mean, this is part of the situation. You got people with different things. Now, he's not got the kids, but, you know, he's got his trucks. And what I see is again, we're putting the burden on Bob to say what that is. I think we have to clean that up and do something about it.
okay, how you want to clean that?
And the vehicles parking in the roadway must be facing travel. That's
a law.
Yeah, and I don't know if we need it in here, because if we put the 2 feet in there, if somebody parks 2 feet from the road on both sides of the road, you ain't getting down the middle of the road. I can tell you right now, you're not. I'm not going to be able to drive my vehicle down the road, much less a fire truck.
Is that the law?
They can't, they got to park in the direction.
Yeah.
But I hate to say 6 inches, 3 inches, 4 inches, because people are going to complain that we're going to go out there with a tape measure and measure everybody's tires. But at the same time, yeah, they can go ahead and measure that while they're there. But I think the 2 feet is too far, because
All right,
if you're parked that far away from the curb and they are too, you can't hardly get through
all
there.
right.
Okay, then just put a period in the direction of travel, period.
Well, first of all, that no more than 2 feet from the curb was in the original ordinance. That wasn't put in there by me.
Okay,
That's been in there since this ordinance was written.
And we may need to,
we can strike that.
Yeah, we
That-
could say 1 foot.
well, if this is already in an ordinance, vehicles must be parked,
1 foot.
then we could
That's a
take it
lot.
out probably, if it's already in another ordinance.
No, it was in the one that this is.
Oh, it was in this one. Oh, okay. So it was already in that one. Yeah, I would shy away from that 2 foot because we could have people doing that and then we can't make them get out to the road and then we can't drive down through there. 2 other things I wanted to say. If an apartment complex gets built in town, they are required to supply ample parking for their apartment complex. Yeah. If a business opens in town, they're required to supply ample. Rental property or somebody who's renting homes, their business, and they should be required to supply ample parking for that business. Whether it's 2 or 4 or 6 or 8, they should be required to provide ample parking in a concrete thing, not on the road. So I disagree that we should change it. I think we ought to do something else to that that requires them to provide X amount of square footage per car. And if they want to rent a house to 6 people, they got to have whatever square foot. Asphalt, concrete parking. If they want to rent it to, yeah, I mean, to me, because I think that needs to be cleared up over there. And I don't see a problem with that because, again, it's like an apartment complex. We make them provide parking. We make a business provide parking and a rental home. And I think our thing has an exemption. Maybe it's just on the business license. If you own a home and that's the only home you rent, then you don't have to pay that business license. But the other stuff still applies. Is that correct?
We charge the registration fee to everybody.
I thought we gave it to an exemption to somebody that if you owned a home, lived in it, and then moved out of town and kept it as a rental, you didn't have to.
No, I
You
think
didn't have to
we
pay
just
that.
talked about it.
Oh, okay, maybe so. All right. But the invading rights thing that you mentioned, I mean, I agree we are touching, but at the same time, we passed a smoking ban, and that invaded a lot of people's rights, what to do on their property as a business, and we do that a lot, hopefully for the greater good and everything, but we do have laws telling people what they got to do on their property. We don't let them run around naked, and we don't let them play loud music. We don't let them do all kind of stuff on their property. So, living in the neighborhood, living in an area like that comes along with certain things that, they do lose some rights that they may not have if they lived in the middle of the country or somewhere. The thing that you said about the parking to the side with nothing, and the thing that Barry said, I mean, I almost feel like we need to say you can't park in your front yard without concrete or asphalt, period, in the front, but they can park to the side on nothing, but come January the 18th or even a period after that, then they got to have a designated parking place on the side.
Now, by side, you mean the side of the driveway, the side of the house?
The side of anything that's not in front of the house, to the side of the driveway, to the outside. And I think we need to get rid of that setback because, to me, if you have, is it 3 foot?
3 feet.
3 foot, and you can plant a fence, you can plant bushes. So why shouldn't you be able to put a driveway that's maybe at most 4 inches higher than the dirt when you can put a fence that's 4 foot high and you can put bushes all down through there that are higher. And if somebody's going to put a driveway, you go into Fox Run over here and you go into New Friars Gate, a lot of those, I don't know if there's 3 foot or 5 foot between the driveway and the side lot line. So there's nowhere for them to park to the outside. The only place they can park is in the road or in the front. So to me, I think you almost say, if somebody's going to put a driveway in, they can get within 6 inches of the lot line, or something. If it's, and that way, at least they got an option there too. That's just my thought.
The setback, you just can't park 3 feet of the property line.
Yeah, but if they only got 5 foot between their driveway and the property line, there ain't a whole lot of room. I mean, even if they build a 5 foot concrete pad.
State, setback is state, isn't it?
Can Can we ask Chief if he has anything to add to this?
Do you have anything you'd like to add?
The chief is trying to be politically correct.
Well, I'm looking at the code of ordinances online under the muni code. 3776 says safety hazards. No vehicle shall be parked in any place within the town in such a fashion that creates a safety hazard to the citizens of the town. And 3082 talks about parking in the roadway. You know, and I mean, it says here, in the travel portion of the street or highway, you can't park there. So,
In the-
I don't know if we're bringing all these problems in front yards and put them in the street. I don't know if that's gonna work. That's my opinion. I mean,
Well, that was one of our concerns about fire trucks and garbage and post office and all those people.
What's a problem in somebody's front yard is now everybody's problem. That's, you know, but it is,
We asked you,
I know.
so go.
And we have rental houses have more than 4 cars parked in their yard. And we have an ordinance, zoning ordinance, that says each residential property is limited to 4 cars, or 4 parking spaces.
Yeah.
Every residential lot is restricted to 4 parking spaces. That's in the zoning. Yes, sir.
Now, what did 3076 say, Chief?
Now, you can park 2 in your garage and park 4 in your driveway.
3076 says, if it's basically, let me go back to it, sir. It says safety hazard, 30-76, safety hazards. It says no vehicle shall be parked in any place within the town in such a fashion that it creates a safety hazard to the citizens of the town. That's, you know, that's very vague, and it gives us a lot of room to work. But there are a lot of streets in town that that I've driven for a long, long time, and if you go on Chafford, you come around the curve and there's cars in the curve. I mean, if we're getting them out of the front yard to grow grass and we're putting them in the streets for everyone else to deal with, I don't know, it's a great idea. There's a house on Chafford Road that's got 6 cars in their front yard. Where are they gonna put them? I have no idea.
6 cars?
6 cars are in their front, I can take you probably right there right now.
And the
I mean, it's in
driveway's
the curve.
full too?
Violates zoning, right there.
There's 6 cars in their yard,
Do they own the house?
yes.
And 2 of them are illegal by zoning
Well,
ordinance.
then I'm just telling, they're in a curve on Chafford Road.
So they could put 4 in their driveway and 2 on the street, right?
Well, then we run into a problem,
On the street.
of them being a safety hazard in the curve on Chafford Road. I mean, I'm just looking at it at all angles.
No, we appreciate
Yeah, I mean, I'm not.
you bringing this up because, look, you're going to have to deal with this ultimately.
And the mailman gets upset.
I mean, I
I've
even
seen
worked,
that.
yeah, I
many
worked a
times.
case when I was on the road where a guy hit a parked car on the side of the road. I found them both at fault. Because we have an ordinance about parking in the street causing a safety hazard and being in the travel lane, and the guy that hit him hit a parked car. I mean, they both kind of contributed to the accident. I let their insurance fight it out. It wasn't a very great conversation I had with both parties, because one of them was like, well, this car's in my road, it's not an ordinance. The other guy says, well, I'm just parked, why did you hit my car? Like, I don't know, I'll let y'all's insurance company deal with this, but it was still an ordinance.
Yeah.
So it's not an easy thing to deal with when we take the trash out of the front yard and we put it in the street, we're all dealing with it. Regardless of what it is, I'm just,
No, we asked you.
So technically, if a guy has 6 cars and he parks 2 of them in the road, he's in violation. If he leaves them in his yard, he's in violation.
Actually, I think if we passed an ordinance that you can only have 4, maybe what would happen is the adult kids would move out, and that might help a lot of the parents at that point.
Well, we already have that ordinance.
But I've got that, but that means my garage is full.
Well,
I left all this stuff there.
Chief, and maybe Eric too, but I thought there was a state law somewhere, because I thought we had discussed it one time, that says in a public road, anybody, because I think George brought it up. He said I couldn't flatten his tires out there or something if they were parked, because it's a public road, so you could park in a public road.
The public right-of-way is the difference between a road and a right-of-way.
Well, I thought it said in the road.
There's a travel lane and then there's a road. You know, there's impeding traffic and then there's parking lane. What is controlled by I guess the DOT, DMV. Another concern I wanted to bring up for you guys, that I have, is from anticipating potential defenses to this, and I don't permanent record for any would-be attorneys that might be out there, but I have questions about pre-existing non-conforming uses on these properties. I mean, to the extent these homeowners have been using these properties this way for a period of time, it's a question of whether or not they may be able to argue this is a pre-existing non-conforming use I have on my property. You can't make me not use it that way, the same way that you can't shut down a coal factory because you decide that you're going to pass an ordinance, there'll be no coal factories in Irmo. It keeps to continue operating, whether you like it or not, until it dies of its own natural. So that's a concern to me, and especially if you've got people that are parked in the front yard, they've been doing it for 14 years, and it's rutted in and the yard's gone because that's what they've been doing. I just throw that out there for you as a potential defense that I would bring up if I were representing somebody in the community other than Irmo that was ticketed with that type of an ordinance. Trying to help y'all get it right.
Yeah, help us. Well,
My experience in my neighborhood was one person started doing it and everybody else decided if he can do it, I can
Yeah.
do it.
and we have a lot of complaints from a lot of people that live here about it running down the neighborhoods. And I agree, it does, but I just don't know what is the best way to deal with it. If we said, and, well, because that would, your argument would still, no matter what we said,
My argument would be a trump to just about anything.
Yeah.
If it carried the weight at the time of the hearing, you'd have to establish the use and its pre-existing use. And there would be an argument contrary to it that every time that you did it was a use and that, that it's not a use the same way a coal factory is. A coal factory is clearly a coal factory and parking in the yard is not necessarily a use. It's just something you did once, 2, 4,000 times, but not necessarily every time was a use. And therefore, when you left one afternoon, it stopped being a use, and none of the ordinance became effective. You waived your use of the notice. There's wiggle room both sides of that.
Well, let's vote on this and think about it next couple of weeks and come back and vigorously defend it or kill it. One of the two.
Okay, let's vote. Good idea.
It's 8:20. I mean,
It's 8:20, let's vote.
yeah, let's go. All right, any other discussion?
No, we're gonna vote.
All in favor then of ordinance 7, well, we got to vote on the amendment first. All in favor of the amendment from the previous one to this one here, do so with show of hands. And all in favor then of passing ordinance 1718 as amended, do so with show of hands. And all opposed?
3 to 2, that's Democrat.
Yeah, I think it just needs some more work somehow or another. But somebody brighter than me's got to do it because I can't figure it out.
You and Bunny can figure it out.
I can't figure it out. He blew me out of the water, and he blew me out of the water.
Eric, if you can possibly make some suggestions to us, thank you. We got to give them,
The only alternative is
Some
to
help.
give people money to pave parking.
there you go.
That's it.
Add it to the budget.
I mean, there's really no good way of letting them park on a surface. I'm just saying.
Okay, on to new business.
Yes, new business.
Approval.
Approval to submit for 100% reimbursement DUI traffic grant. Is there a motion for approval?
What is that? 100% reversal.
Yeah, right there it says it.
I mean, I don't understand.
Well, read it.
I read it, but I don't understand.
Well, we're going to have to let him explain it to us if we get a motion in a second.
This is a government grant, isn't it?
We'll get a motion in a second.
Okay, make a motion.
That's second.
All right, now,
What is this?
Bob's gonna explain it.
Well, I'm gonna let the chief and Captain Dennis.
Oh, so
Okay,
pass the
that's
buck,
good.
okay.
Okay.
Chief and,
Now we need your help, okay? So anything I said earlier. Yeah.
I'll try to keep it brief, but what has happened is we have had an opportunity to take part of a federal grant. It's 100% reimbursement. And what that would cover is officers, cars, but the focus of that grant is DUI enforcement. If you're not aware of the DUI problem in the state, and you're not reading the papers and looking at the news, if you look at it any day, you see that there's a fatality somewhere close to us. When you look at the numbers for the state, they keep going up every year. When you look at the numbers of troopers out there, they keep going down. The number of tickets being written going down. So when you look at Lexington and Richland County, which we all live in and we all travel in, those are some of the highest counties with DUI crashes, fatal crashes, serious injury crashes. We actually ranked 34th out of 52 counties. So this area is hot for bad crashes and hot for DUI crashes. What this grant would do and allow us to do is help combat some of that, specifically in the Irmo area. If you look at the car counts in this area, we have tons of vehicles that come through here, 26,000 a day on Lake Murray Boulevard, over 10,000 on St. Andrews, Broad River as well. So this grant would help us bring on 2 officers. What we want to apply for is to bring on 2 officers to do DUI enforcement, specifically focused. One of the advantages is with this type of grant is 100% funded. So, there'll be, and the town administrator can talk more about how the money side of it works, but we would purchase items, they would reimburse us 100%. The purpose of us coming here tonight is that we attended a solicitation about this grant. We like what it says. We think it could impact Irmo and the community and help us, keep traffic safe around here and people safe. Bringing on these 2 officers, they want these grants submitted by June 30th. The grant to be submitted, they're looking at award periods in September, maybe implementation late 2017, early 2018. But we're going to really have to work on putting this grant together in the next 20 days for your consideration and approval to submit it to the Department of Highway Safety.
Okay, I noticed it was 3 years.
So this grant, it's marketed as a 3-year grant. There's always worries that after 1 year, because you have to reapply every year, even though they call it a 3-year grant. Basically, the purpose of that is to look at your numbers, making sure that you're meeting goals, that you're doing something with the equipment that they're providing for you. So it has potential of being cut off at any year, but it's marketed as a 3-year grant. That also being said, although they could cut you off early, they also sometimes let you go longer. There are some agencies that are still running this grant 5 years later because they continue to reapply. This one's called HEAT grant. It's high enforcement, something to do with traffic is the acronym.
Y'all seen the cars that heat on the side, the Lexington County?
No.
They've run this program for about 8 years.
Well, we need to be out later probably at night.
Well, the grant,
If you're in bed about 6, yeah, you're probably not gonna
the grant targets very specific areas. So DUI enforcement is the primary focus. Timeframes are specified within the grant. They want DUI enforcement officers out there from 3 p.m. to 6 a.m., somewhere in that timeframe. Bringing on 2 officers that we want to propose in the grant would put one out 7 days a week. One on the current rotation and then one on the following rotation. So we have 1 DUI officer out there from around 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. every day of the week. Your highest target times are those, and the
Sure.
days are the weekends, typically Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Looking at some of the data.
And
Without
y'all,
targeting DUI enforcement, we average about 40 arrests a year. We've had higher numbers with other officers that have been here, and we've had lower numbers with these officers going. They were very high, operating a lot of traffic enforcement, finding DUIs, making traffic stops. And with us looking for the
So they can work other details then.
The grant specifically focused for DUI enforcement. There's a portion in that grant that actually says they are not to work collisions. So, now if in that collision, there's a DUI operator, they can come over and make the arrest for the DUI. But the primary focus of the feds giving this kind of money to the state and specifying it to the town of Irmo is to combat drunk driving because of the problem in this state. So as far as extra duties, if we were to ask them to do something outside of DUI enforcement, we as a town would have to fund that. They would not carry that cost.
So we have a designated DUI officer, is what you're saying?
Yeah, yes, sir.
And y'all are in favor of it?
It's a win-win for us it's a win-win for us. We have not been able to focus a lot on traffic enforcement, specifically DUIs. They're about this is a 3-hour venture when you stop somebody that's under the influence and you lock them up, it's a 3-hour ordeal. And then court and all that afterwards. I mean, you're looking at a lot of time invested in getting someone off the streets for DUI, which is a very important thing.
Yeah.
I don't want to get hit by anyone that's been driving with influence. They always live. I mean, I might break my toe and I'm dead. It's crazy how that works. But this is a major problem. Lexington and Richland County is one of the highest counties in the top 5 for DUI-related crashes. Lexington and Richland County. And when you hear about these crashes, these people coming from 5 Points and crashing in Chapin, we're in the middle. We dropped the ball. They came right through our town, and we dropped the ball. We could have saved somebody's life, maybe. I don't know. But it's all about saving lives, and that's what we're in the game for. I mean, we're here to save lives, and we're here to save people in the town. So, I mean, it's a great thing.
If y'all can get it renewed 3 years, probably even if it left after 3 years, we'd still need 2 new officers.
Well, that's the other part about this grant. The 3-year grant, what they do ask, and most grants, I haven't found the exact language in this grant, but most federal grants ask you to absorb those personnels after the grants expire. So once that grant expires, we would need to look at some absorption of those 2 officers, whether it be to keep them or create a traffic unit because they're progressive in that, or to focus their activities somewhere else. The grants give very, with their language in there, I mean, it's very tight with what you can do with those officers, and when those officers' grants expire, what you can do with them. They basically don't want you hiring 2 officers for a year and saying, okay, we'll check next year to see if you're still good. What they want you to do is kind of guarantee that you're gonna put them on the books at some point.
Okay.
So we would have to consider absorbing them. Typically on federal grants, after the grant runs up, a minimum of 2 years after the grants expire is what they'd like to see you absorb for at least, but we would consider absorbing them permanently.
So we're talking about potentially, if the grant expires up to 1 year, because you're only guaranteed 1 year, right?
Yes, you have to reapply every year.
So you're talking about having us make a commitment now for probably $400,000 for 5 years.
The equipment would already been purchased. So the salaries of 2 officers.
Yeah. Salaries of 2 officers are $100,000 a year. Salary and benefits, right? So $100,000 a year, 4 years.
The other part of that equation, if you don't mind, is if you do want it for 3 years, the investment that we put into it is next to none. I mean, it's 100% funded, and you've gotten that for 3 years, which is gonna generate enforcement activity, like the chief mentioned. It's gonna lead not only to DUI arrests, those numbers are gonna be minor compared to the number of speeding tickets, failure to yields, and the other enforcement activities that they'll use to make these kind of stops.
So they'll purchase the cars, the computers, the guns.
The guns is not, there's 3 items that are specifically not included on the grant. Guns, uniforms, and badges. They specifically put that language in there, but those are low-cost items compared to a computer that's $3,000 to $4,000 that we use, $30,000 vehicle.
And the salary like seeing old friends. We're like, hey, is this worth it? And they're like, we've been doing this for 5 years. We do it, we've done 5 years. This grant, we had a 3-year grant. We've done it. We're on our 5th year. They have not cut us off from funding. We're here to get 4 more officers under this grant system. That's what really kind of sold us was the other agencies around us were like, come and see, we'll give you all the things that you need to get moving on this. And it was kind of a win-win for us to actually go to bat and see what we can do in front of y'all and see if y'all like the idea. I think it's a great idea. If we can save one life for $200,000.
Of course.
I mean,
Of course.
that's what we're here for. So, I mean, I don't know, will we save a life? Will we catch DUI? You know, are there any DUIs on Lake Murray right now? I don't know. But I'd like to get the opportunity to see what we can do to make the, you know, safer community. This would be a great opportunity to go to the citizens and say, we have a DUI enforcement team out here working for you. And, I mean.
What is started on when we look at some of the data, some of the crash data, fatalities, is when you look at Irmo, we're very fortunate. I think in 2015 was our last 2 fatalities. And I think one in 2016 was motorcycles. And all of those had DUI components to them, but we're talking single digits. You get just outside of that box, and you increase that box to I-2026 and Broadway Road on I-26, and then zone it, box it out that way, you're in the 40s and 50s of crashes, serious bodily injury, and fatal. So again,
We are lucky.
you know, we're lucky because they're only in Irmo when they're traveling through for a few minutes or seconds sometimes, just depending on what avenue of approach they take. But when 26,000 cars a day are coming down Lake Murray, there are impaired drivers out there. We're lucky that we're not having collisions with them. The other side of the coin with this particular grant is it's 100% funded. When you look at other grants out there that feds do, they tier them. They're typically 75% your first year, 50% the next, and 25% the third on a 3-year grant. This one's marketed as 100% for 3 years. So there's a lot of advantages to this style of grant, especially when we talk about absorption of officers in the future.
And what really sold me on it too as well is the other agencies were there and they're like, we put in for it every year. This is our 5th year on a 3-year grant. And I'm not saying we're gonna be that fortunate. I would love to be that fortunate to go 5 years and not have to pay anything. But I mean, yeah, it's a gamble. It's a gamble. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Are you good at writing grants?
I'm sorry.
Are you good at writing grants?
Yeah, that's what he did before he assumed this wonderful
Good.
position here.
Good.
And you had mentioned, say, going from Columbia to Chapin, so I'm assuming that means you can do it on Interstate 26,
Well, that was
whatever
another-
portion
Yeah,
that comes through our
that was
town.
something we could,
You're kidding.
like I talked about,
We haven't been out there yet.
we have a 1-mile stretch. Ain't live, no. We do have a 1-mile stretch of interstate that's in town. We used to run traffic out there when I first got here. And I don't, yeah, I mean,
Jeez.
Judge Etting's heard cases in this courtroom on I-26. Yes, sir, we do have traffic, yes. And we fight the highway patrol every day because they're saying, there's a crash out there and it's y'all's, theoretically. But we say, well, it is, but it's in the state of South Carolina as well, and it's on the highway. We don't do traffic enforcement out there, it's y'all's. We've had arguments with the highway patrol about it. Yes, we do have traffic. We do have interstate. We do have interstate. We just, again, if we, like I talked before, if we open the Pandora's box,
You know, they've had fatals out there as well, and they've had, you know, I'm sure you guys have seen where the truck exploded out there.
Yeah.
We don't have, a DUI team's not gonna be able to combat those types of issues that come through highway. Also, our officers would need more training to do enforcement out on the highway. It's kind of a different monster as opposed to Lake Murray Boulevard where your max speed's 40, 45. You talk about cars that are gonna be doing triple digits out there. So they'll need some more advanced training. It is something we could consider, but just with what we're currently working, there's a lot of activity that they could address.
And you can't target individual restaurants who stay. You can't just stay out there, wait for somebody to stumble.
no, but we can target a stop sign in an intersection for people running the stop lights. everything that happens could be related to DUIs. An impaired driver,
Sure.
you know, they're gonna
Yeah.
drive on the wrong side of
Yeah.
the road.
Yeah.
And we've had that here. We've had them sitting on the wrong side of the road at an intersection at 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
Waiting for the light to change so they can make a left turn, all going the wrong way, and I'm not kidding. We just had the case the other.
That was the last term.
Last case.
Had a young
So-
lady, the officer turned the lights on. She was already driving down the left-hand side of the road. And I guess she, was hearkening back to her days in jolly old England. She decided she would pull on over to the left-hand side, left-hand side curb while she was pulled over for the police officer.
Thank God she didn't hit anybody.
Well, and every day we say that. Every day we
Yeah.
say that. We get
Yeah.
rollovers. Kathy, you see our Facebook page. We get rollovers. We get 3 rollovers a month. I don't know how these cars are flipping over, but
I saw a rollover on North Royal Tower Drive, I think, last
Yeah.
year.
yeah, the cars are
I
rolling
couldn't
over.
believe it.
There are drunk drivers out there right now. And, you know, if we can get 1 or 2 off the road and save them from themselves,
Yes.
and not only save them, but save a family, I don't know where we could go wrong.
No, this is an epidemic. I think every family has someone that they know who's been impacted in some way with a drunk driver. So I've heard enough. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Any more discussion? All in favor then of the approval for the 100% reimbursable DUI traffic grant, do so with show of hands. Next is presentation by citizens. This is where anyone who would like to address council on anything, whether it's on the agenda or not on the agenda, may do so at this time. All we ask is you give us your name and address for the record. And I don't know if you wanted to speak again or, I mean, if you don't, that's fine too.
Did you understand the conversation we had? Did you understand the conversation we had? No, did you understand the discussion we had up here? About parking?
Yeah, well, as far as the, I understand that part.
Okay, right.
What I'm gathering, as long as my car is not visible from the road, that I can park in my backyard.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, as long as it's not visible from a public street. Yeah. And if it is visible from a public street, you can put a car cover on it, not a tarp, but a car cover, and that covers it. Is that? One car. One car.
Not conducting business.
And that can be in the driveway.
It has to be on pavement,
Oh, okay.
side or rear drive.
Does
So
it
if
have
it's
to
in
be
the
registered?
backyard, it still has to be out of view,
It doesn't have to be out of view.
or out of view from the public street.
If it's covered, it doesn't have to be out of view.
Does it have to be registered?
Garage door and covered.
Technically, yes, but if it's covered, the whole idea is you're
Yep.
getting around that. And
Yep.
we're not gonna go lift it up to look, that you've got it covered.
You don't go into people's backyards just to look, see if their car's covered, right?
Usually we are, drawn to an area by complaint, and then if it's anonymous in certain situations, we would go and look at it from the public street, and if we can see the violation from the roadway, then we will approach that citizen and talk to them about it.
So if you can see the hood of a car, I'm sorry, the roof of a car, the antenna of a car, would you go and investigate it?
If we could see it from the road and it looked like it might be in disrepair, we might knock on your door and talk to you.
All right. All right.
But the first thing we're gonna do is knock on your door and talk to you. We're not just gonna go into your backyard.
But let me understand, so I may be confused, but if somebody has a car parked in the backyard and it's not visible from the street, then they don't need to have it covered.
That's correct.
If it is visible from the street, then it needs to be covered or tagged,
Correct.
or it's in violation. Okay.
And the tag needs to be current.
But what was about the, it being on a driveway and covered? What was,
You can only have one car covered.
one car covered per yard?
Right.
So it doesn't matter if that's in the
Per
driveway or the
driveway.
backyard?
Per driveway, right?
The way the
Or
ordinance
per
says,
yard?
on the side or rear part of the residence,
Okay,
on pavement, on a paved surface.
all right.
Well, that's where I'm getting confused now. You're saying the car that's covered has to be on a paved surface?
Yes.
So even if it's in the backyard and covered, it's still in violation because it's not on the driveway? Is that right?
Yeah, that sounds right. I mean, a lot of times what happens with that is you just can't see it if you're looking at the backyard from the road. You wouldn't be able to see it unless you walk certain areas around that house. And we're not gonna get to that point unless, we get drawn to it from a neighbor or somebody who makes a complaint about it.
Is that true of a boat also?
As far as it being covered,